you doing?
Hey, it's Ali. Welcome back to my channel. This movie has permanently changed the trajectory of my life. I need you to understand, I was watching the movie the entire time with a Wojak expression on my face. Do you see this shit? Do you see this shit? But as my brain chemistry was being permanently altered, I noticed some very interesting things being said about the characters and their relationships. And as I think about it, maybe no one needs to be Spider-Man. Or, well, not in the way that we know it as. If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos like this all the time. And comment down below how this movie changed your brain chemistry. Because I know it did. I know it did. And let's jump into it. So there's this vampire. Miguel really had me twirling my hair and kicking my feet. As soon as he came onto the scene, I was twirling my hair, kicking my feet. And then he started to beat up a 14-year-old child. But I noticed when Peter B. Parker says to him, oh, you're Spider-Man, you're supposed to be cracking jokes, you're supposed to be funny. I know that's supposed to be like a joke about how Miguel is so straight-laced and everybody else is cracking jokes and being funny because that's what Spider-Man does. But I was like, pause, wait a minute. And then later in the scene when Miguel is chasing down Spider-Man, he says, you're not even supposed to be Spider-Man. I was like, pause. Wait a minute. Like, obviously that was specifically alluding to the fact that the spider that bit Miles was not from his universe. But I think there's a little bit more to it. Like, how you gonna tell us in the first movie that anyone can wear the mask and then be like, actually, wait, no, psych, actually you can't. No, but not you though. It's like an asterisk. It's like anyone can wear the mask, but not you. Not you, Miles. Like, everything down to the suit that Miles wears is some type of an anomaly. Peter B. Parker even says, oh, what's up with your suit? It's like you're bleeding from the sides, whatever. Like, he doesn't think his suit as a Spider-Man suit. With that all being said, I think that Spider-Man, as we know it, should be and maybe will be abolished. And Miles obviously is gonna be the one to do it. Hobie specifically, despite how small of a role Hobie had overall in this movie, he had such a pivotal role to play, and not only like the meta commentary of everything, but then also at the same time furthering Miles's character development, being someone that Miles simultaneously is like envious of but also like immediately looks up to. But then at the same time, Hobie is there to like help him and give him little clues along the way. And I feel like a lot of what Hobie says, those themes are going to be expanded upon in the last movie. He is like so genuinely confused on why Miles wants to join the Spider Society, because he's like, there's nothing good going on here. Like, in theory, on paper, it seems so good and fun, and then in practice, it's like, what? It's like more of a spider cult than a spider society. Hey, I'm gonna do something annoying and bring up the MCU for a second. Though the newest MCU phase has been floundering, I kind of think that this is kind of where it was trying to go this entire time. This idea of like kind of forging your own path and destiny and like what it means to be a specific superhero and what your life is supposed to be like and all that stuff. I feel like especially with Loki and like the TVA, and they kind of touched on it there, and I think it was supposed to keep going even in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is the best movie out of this phase so far. Even though, didn't they start a new phase already? See, I don't even know. I don't think anybody knows anymore. But Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's kind of this gods and monsters like esque, like what it means to like have your destiny pre-planned for you and what your role is and how breaking out of that role and all that stuff works. And I feel like, again, the TVA and Loki was kind of touching on that, where it's like if you're going against who you are supposed to be, quote unquote Loki, and you are going against the natural quote unquote order of things, and therefore you must be eliminated, that timeline must be eliminated, all this other stuff. So going back to the Spider-Verse, we're done talking about the MCU now, it's really kind of cool to see that idea like fully fleshed out. No offense, to see that idea fully fleshed out in the fact that like Miles is Spider-Man, but they're saying, no, you're not supposed to be Spider-Man because you weren't bit in the right universe. There was already a Spider-Man in your universe, and see, he died because of you. Crazy thing to say to a 14-year-old, by the way. Someone died because of you. Crazy thing to say. Absolutely. Even if it's true, crazy thing to say. But Miguel is like harping on this idea that in order to be Spider-Man, to truly be Spider-Man, you have to go through all of these horrific, tragic events. And that includes losing both your uncle and whoever the police chief is at that time, because for some reason you're friends with the police chief. In this case, it's Miles's dad and also Gwen's dad. So going off of everything that happens in the movie and what they're saying to Miles about him not actually being Spider-Man, well, what if he's not? What if he just stops being Spider-Man? Think about it for a second. Like, truly, roll with me for a second. Walk with me. If Miguel really is so adamant about Spider-Man having to be this person, this character that loses so much and goes through so much loss and heartbreak and is so isolated and alone, then why don't we just stop being called Spider-Man? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Or at least Spider-Man in the way that we know it. Like, in this case, your life doesn't have to be filled with suffering and tragic events. Like, twice in this movie, they did the whole Gwen falling from a large height thing. Twice in one scene. They did it twice in one scene. I'm losing it. Don't do that again. Don't do it. Just don't do it again. So easy. Just don't be Spider-Man. And instead be Spider-Man that represents something else. During the Spider-Man India scene, we see Pavitar struggle with trying to save both the police chief and his Gwen, but then Miles swoops in and saves them, and it's played off as this like, oh, you weren't supposed to do that. It was a canon event that was supposed to happen. But because Miles swooped in and saved the police chief, in this case, it like disrupted something. But it's like, what did it disrupt? Like, let's be for real now. What exactly did it disrupt? Because that hole that was caused was not caused by Miles. It was caused by the spot, which I think Miles even tries to defend himself in saying, but then Miguel's just like, no. This is your fault. It's still your fault. It's still your fault. And I think that is going to be one of the like core, like kind of pushing and evidence pieces of like, look, like Miguel was really trying to sit there and say that like, oh, well, we may not be able to fix Pavitar's like his world and everything because you broke something that was supposed to happen. He was supposed to go through that, and now we may not be able to fix his world. But it's like, but what if you do though? What if like nothing happens? Like, obviously the big hole that the spot caused is gonna be an issue, but what if you close that and then everything's fine? It's this what if that Miguel is like working off of that he doesn't want to see. Like, he even says to Gwen at some point when Miles leaves, and Gwen asks, do we even know that it's really going to cause like an issue if Miles does this? And he's like, do you want to find out? And it's like, yeah. Actually, yeah, I kind of do want to find out, actually. And then one of the biggest things that this movie's theme is about is, especially with Spider-Man, overall with Spider-Man, is about having your cake and eating it too. And something that Spider-Man as a character grapples with a lot throughout comics, movies, TV shows, whatever, is this idea of not being able to be like a normal teenager, young adult, and also Spider-Man. And through most of the series, there is it always ends with like, oh, he found some type of life balance by letting in just a few people in his life and like whatever. Like Tom Holland's Spider-Man ends so sad, actually, like, and so bittersweet. And I don't know if this is intentional. Like, obviously, like, it's still an association with Marvel, but it's Sony doing this, so I have no idea if like any of the stories are supposed to parallel each other. But the fact that like Peter in that universe had to literally give up like his whole family, his whole friends and everything just so he can be Spider-Man, and it's like, is that it? Do we though? Do we really though? Do we really though? Miles mentions like, what if you can have your cake and eat it too if you just had two cakes? So going back to the Spider-Man India scene, there were two Spider-Mans in that universe at that time that then helped it. You have a canon Spider-Man and then a canon divergent Spider-Man. See, my knowledge of fan fiction is finally coming into usefulness, isn't it? And instead of calling these people Spider-Man, you can call them Spider-Bite, Spider-Punk, Ghost Spider, Spider-Woman, and Miles Morales is Spider-Man. And I really do think that it is that simple. I know like people may be like, oh, it can't be that simple with the conclusion of everything and blah, blah, blah. But in terms of like appeasing the universe or like whatever, I really do think it's going to be that simple. I think it's going to be like funny, but I also think it's going to play into the whole idea that anyone can wear the mask and a better use for the Spider Society. Right now, what is the Spider Society right now other than a pity party for all the Spider-Man? What? It's literally just a pity party. So how about instead of making it a pity party, we make it an actual support group? In these universes where these canon events are happening, you have the advantage of helping people. You have the extra advantage of helping one another, which I think is going to be like the logical conclusion if they decide to keep all the barriers open, which I am tired of closing barriers at the end of these types of shows and movies. So like, keep the barriers open, keep the universes open and being able to flow through them freely, is this idea that we can go to different universes and help where it is needed. There's no reason in this case for Spider-Man to be so isolated. In fact, community is another really big theme of the movie. Miles' mom, the scene that I cried, the only scene I cried at, I deeply cried because of the meta-analysis and like all that of that specific scene of Miles's mom talking to him and letting him know that like no matter where he goes, you will always be loved here. You will always find community and safety and security here. And I think that is going to be like the overarching theme is like you can go anywhere, and wherever you go, you will always find that theme. The fact that you can go to any universe and there is a Spider-Man, you know, now at the end of the movie, he is in a universe where there is no Spider-Man. And I think that he's going to teach that in Universe's Miles to be Spider-Man, despite the fact that he doesn't have that spider, that spider isn't there. He doesn't need it per se. And I think that's going to be the whole point. Again, wrapping it around, anyone can wear the mask. How are you going to say that in the first movie and then directly contradict that in the second movie by being like, everyone can wear the mask but you, but not you though. And I think Miles is going to take that kind of like that lesson and run with it. No, anyone can wear the mask. There's no reason why. We are in a like advantageous position where we can all help each other out. And I think the Spot specifically also is kind of paralleling that in the sense that the Spot just needed help. He started off as a very goofy villain, but in reality it's a man who needed help. He was robbing that convenience store, or really he was robbing the ATM, which isn't technically the convenience store. It's owned by the banks. He was right on that part. But he is robbing that because he doesn't have money, because he can't get a job. Otherwise, he would just go back to his job at the science lab, but it's gone now. He doesn't have a job, and it technically is Miles' fault, technically. But instead of like listening to him and helping him, the police, or I mean, obviously Miles can't do it, he's 14, but like the police, the government, somebody, anybody, you know, helping him out, he was blatantly ignored and then taught like, oh, you can't be a member. You don't have community anymore. You don't have anybody. And so that's why he's doing that to Miles, to be like, I'm going to do the same thing to you, essentially, because you took that away from me. You took that community away from me, and I'm going to take it away from you. But Miles will always have community. And if we just realize, if Miguel gets his tight little ass and just realizes that you are better off as a group than alone, I feel like we'd be fine. Again, I know this was written as a like continuous gag joke, but what if truly at the end of the third movie we do get this or not even the end of the third movie, what about at the climax, which I'm assuming the beginning of the movie is just going to be Miles and Miles like probably fighting with each other and then eventually coming together to like use their heads to like solve whatever issue is going to be about in this one. And what if at the end of that, if that universe's Miles, Prowler Miles, becomes Spider-Man, and what if they do the whole comic book thing, but in this instance it's no longer like Spider-Man, or the emphasis isn't on Spider-Man, instead the emphasis is on Miles Morales. So I think, do not quote me on this because I have to go back and like look, but I'm gonna say it here and I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but in the like comic, like on the comic book page, it says like Miles Morales in like small letters and then Spider-Man in like big letters. I know it's a small thing, but what if that gets flipped in the last movie when they do that? Because they're obviously going to do it again because it's a running gag of like, oh, let's do this one last time. And he's talking about like, oh, I am Spider-Man. And also saying that he's Brooklyn's one and only Spider-Man is also a reoccurring motif throughout the entire movie, both the first one and this one now. And what if it's just like, you don't have to be the universe's only Spider-Man. I'm not the universe's only Spider-Man. I'm not the city's only Spider-Man. And that is okay. And the whole comic book thing is going to be more about celebrating who each person is as an individual and less about them being Spider-Man, because that's not what makes them unique. What makes them unique isn't them being Spider-Man. What makes them unique is, you know, the bite of Spider Bite, the ballerina-ness of Gwen, which also, speaking of, her story and her character development also, you know, parallels like Miles in the sense that like she also has been very isolated and very alone, and she doesn't like it. Like I know like a lot of the other characters are like, this is just the life we have to live, specifically Miguel, he's like, this is the life we have to live, but she specifically doesn't like how isolated she is. She constantly tries to reach out for her dad, even though, which I love by the way, she's not just like angsty teen, I hate you dad, blah, blah, blah. Like the fact that she still, even when she's mad at her dad, still reaches out to him because that's her fucking dad, you know, like she still reaches out to him and wants him as a pillar of support, but she feels like she can't throughout like most of the movie until the end. Also, everything kind of just fixed itself in her universe by him not being the police chief. He's no longer going to die, which makes me think though there's a little bit of a plot hole in that, because then wouldn't that mean that whoever is the police chief there is just going to die anyway, unless the whole point is that that storyline no longer exists, that canon event no longer exists for Gwen because she and her dad were able to come to that like not recollection. She and her dad were able to come to that like agreement and really resolve their issues with each other. And therefore that it changed the canonness of her timeline. Even in the Tom Holland live action, last Spider-Man movie of like Far From Home, No Way Home, it's No Way Home. Even in that movie, didn't all the live action spiders from the past come together to end up helping one another? Because if Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man wasn't there, Mary Jane would have died. MJ would have fucking died. just like no one was there to help him when his Gwen died. If he wasn't there to help him because Tom Holland was off doing whatever else, Mary Jane would have died. So I feel like if they call back to that in the third movie, I will actually lose my fucking mind. Oh my god, now that I think about it. If they do, mark this down, because if they do that, because the only thing they haven't alluded to is Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like, they did a whole little cameo, well, not really cameo, they just showed a clip from the movie of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I mean, technically, I guess the Donald Glover Prowler was supposed to be like in reference to Tom Holland's Spider-Man because he was in that movie and he was supposed to be Miles Morales' like cousin, nephew, uncle. So he was technically supposed to be the Prowler in that movie, but that never happened. I don't know if it was ever supposed to happen. If that happens, because everything is already so interconnected, I would scream if that happens. I think we would all fucking scream if that happens. But that is like a parallel like type of thing where instead of having all these Spider-Mans in one universe where it ruins things, it actually ended up fixing things. Now, granted, that is because Tom Holland at the beginning of the movie, I'm saying Tom Holland instead of Peter Parker because there's multiple Spider-Man. It's because Tom Holland at the beginning of the movie opened all of those portals to let all these bad guys in. But like the point is, all the Spider-Mans came together to fix it, and had they not been there, they wouldn't have been able to fix it. And so I feel like we're gonna get some of that in this, where we have this universe and we can reach across these universes, but instead of like helping one another, we're still isolating ourselves. Wait a minute. That's a wait. The meta-analysis of that. Oh my god. Spider-Verse is, oh my god. It is so insane how good this movie is. And don't even get me started about the implications of this community and the fact that every black spider was the one to help Miles escape during that Spider Society scene. I can go for days about that. I can make a whole video about why that is so important. Even Issa Rae's character, Spider-Woman, at the end of the movie, inadvertently helped Miles by letting Gwen go. It is so important to me. It may not mean nothing to y'all, but I could talk about the race implications of that all day fucking long, but we're not going to do that here. I'll just leave it with this. I'll leave it with a line that Hobie said. Make your own watch. That line is what even prompted all of this in the first place. You don't need that. You can make your own group. And even Gwen was saying like you can make your own, like she made her own band at the end. Making your own communities. I fucking love it. I love everything about this movie, from its themes to the art. Everything looks so well done, and you can just tell a human made this with like so much passion. Never mind, this movie is horrible. 0 out of 10. I really don't know why I stopped doing like critical analysis videos about the shows and movies that I watch. Literally the biggest 2 videos that I did on this channel are videos where I do just that. Like the Being Puppy Cat video, I was talking about like the aesthetics of it and how that intertwines with the story. And then the Lego Monkey Kid video, I was doing it about like TV tropes and stuff. I really don't know why I stopped doing that. It's fun. I think because I get really insecure about my theories and like intellectualizing things. Is that the word? See, stuff like that. Like I get really insecure about that stuff and I feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about. But sometimes something like this comes along and you just have so many thoughts about it and it's like I need to get them out. I need to get them out. So thank you for watching all the way into the end. If you did, you are a real one. Comment down below if you have more to add on to this theory. I feel like because I haven't been able to watch the movie again yet, I feel like there's a lot of evidence that I'm missing. But I feel like this is like the way the movie is going to go, or at least the last movie is going to be hinting towards in terms of coming full circle on a lot of these themes. But let me know down in the comments below if you have a different theory. I would love to hear it. Let's talk about it, please. I have so many thoughts in my head and I want to talk about it with people. My socials are also down below. If you want to reach me out on any of my social media, we can talk about it there as well. So thank you so much for listening to my little crack theory where I really kind of just ramble for like 25 minutes. Thank you so much for that. I'll see you in the next episode. Love. and peace. See ya.